Bertha, how are you?
I'm fine, Roberta. How are you?
I'm hanging in there. I'm hanging in there. Like everyone else, I'm trying to wrap my head around all the news coming out of DC. But no one really wants to hear what I think. I think what we want to know is someone like yourself, who's been around a long time, who is organized and led movements, and is just a pioneer in our communities and a leader. What do you make of the Department of Justice decision, or and telling the Southern District to dismiss the charges or move on? What are your thoughts?
Well, there's the macro, which is Trump and the doggies. Uh, then there's the micro, which is Adams and his merry band of thugs.
Mm,
So let's start out with the macro. We we are seeing what some of us knew and tried to warn people about would happen. That if, we marched 1 million people, you know, like this is Trump 2.0. And you best believe he's an idiot, yes. And other people are handing him stuff where the thing that he does best is like, makes this like 2-year-old signature. But we're seeing this. He had 4 years to plan this. What were we doing? Okay. What? We knew every single day that Trump, as the devil, was telling us, I'm determined to get back. I'm determined to do this. For 4 years, he said that the election was stolen from him in 2020, and he kept saying it. And we thought all we had to do was say it was a lie. Well, guess what? It's not a lie when people believe it.
mm,
And there was such a belief that we actually had people attack the Capitol.
mm,
And there was no one when Black Lives Matter marched. You had stormtroopers lining all around the Capitol and all around government buildings. But somehow or another, we, didn't think that this guy would be, plotting. And the devil always tells you what he's going to do right away. It was right there in front of our face. And maybe we couldn't see the forest for the trees.
mm,
Now, instead of our Democrats and the liberal, progressive, lefty billionaires, and we have billionaires, instead of them saying, that's it, let's fund these organizations. You had 1 million people march. This is Trump 2.0. Let's put 2 million in the streets. Black Lives Matter. Y'all had your thing. So we're going to fund you to do the right thing, and we need to mobilize people.
mm.
So you put 2 million because it's 2.0. Antifa, all of them. Where are you? But you know what? The narrative is like, oh, people are exhausted. Let's not do the same things again. And let's pick our fights. You're playing in to Trump's hands and his mob's hands. You're accepting that there's MAGA world. And we're not doing that. And, because I'm an organization that has to struggle to organize people every day, none of us are being funded like that. Most of the people that are being funded from before and are still being funded now are the climate folks. I get it. But come on, folks, if there was ever a time to be back in the streets, flooding the streets, there were last week, you had multiple demonstrations, maybe 1,000 people, maybe a couple of hundred, but none of the liberal progressive press reported on it. Just like they get clicks and they have their algorithms. Why are we conceding this in this new age of social media? So I'm really pissed off about this. But now let's get to the micro. Okay?
Yes, let's.
Gracie Mansion has become Uncle Tom's Cabin. So don't call it Gracie Mansion anymore. There's no grace there. It's Uncle Tom's Cabin. We had the ice guy in Uncle Tom's Cabin meeting. We had Tucker Carlson in person in Uncle Tom's Cabin meeting. We have an embarrassment for a mayor that Trump snaps his fingers and, he's off to DC in the middle of the night to be in an overflow back of the room. Trump calls and our so-called leader just jumps and says, how high? And don't use me as a New York City taxpayer to say that you're doing this on my behalf, because you're not. You tell your agencies, oh, we'll give you a reason to let ICE in to terrorize all of your immigrant people that you're serving. Just say you were feeling threatened and just welcome them in. Don't put up a fight. The message is don't fight. Well, I say to hell with that, because I'm a woman of color and people of color have had to fight all of our lives. I'm like Sophia and the color purple. I done had to fight all my life. So I'm just a little bit disgusted with the national liberals, progressives, Democratic Party. And I'm extremely embarrassed, heartbroken, and disgusted on the city level.
Bertha, what do you? Go ahead.
We're so bad off, so bad, that we're willing to say, maybe Andrew Cuomo could be the mayor. That's how low we have sunk here in this city on the micro level.
Bertha, what do you make of the field? What do you make of the other candidates? What do you,
I don't
as
think a
someone who
lot.
founded multiple institutions, you were part of the WFP, ACORN, New York Communities for Change, the list goes on and on. What do you think of what are the alternatives? You're not a fan of Andrew Cuomo. You're not a fan of the current mayor. What's the light at the end of the tunnel?
Well, I'm not impressed with most of the field at all. Let's put it like that. This is my program. I'm going to build 1 million homes. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. Number one, there has been situations since Koch that have been, you know, front of mind that haven't been dealt with. You know, let's take the NYPD, for instance. I don't hear any of them talking about or having the courage to say that, um, the NYPD is a racist organization. It's a paramilitary racist organization, and it needs to be reformed from top to bottom. The, for our struggling, like, lower middle class homeowners, Black and brown homeowners, minority homeowners in the outer boroughs get charged 3 times as much in their property taxes. And it could be fixed. It could be fixed right now. It's unfair, it's discriminatory, and it's been a problem for years. And yet, since the de Blasio administration, the city administration goes, no, we don't want to deal with that. We're not going to deal with that. On housing, you say you're going to build X number of houses as if this big number quantity matters when it's over 10, 15 years, just like the city of mess that the mayor just got passed with the help of this so-called progressive city council. And as soon as they acquiesced to his city of mess, what did he do? Oh, I'm going to block you with another charter revision commission so you can't do anything. We have a failure of imagination. So the field, by and large, I'm not real happy with. And look, I am not a democratic socialist by any means, because I think in many instances they do bad things to our communities. However, I respect them because they do the work. And I have to say, even though I think his chances are slim to none, Zoran Mamdani is the most cogent, coherent, that I've heard, and the one who has the boldest plans. But I'm not happy with the field at all. And I don't know who these guys are talking to, but they definitely ain't talking to me. But I understand. Why would you call up an angry Black woman?
But
Because,
Bertha, let's say the election were today. Who would be your? I'm assuming, based on what you've said, that your rank number one rank possibly could be Zoran. Do you have a 2 and a 3 now that we live in a ranked choice system, or do you think, based on your
well,
principles, the candidates are just not up to par, and you would just say, hey, maybe a
yeah.
1, or maybe just a sort of protest non-vote, right?
Well, I would tell you, the only thing I could tell you is who I would not rank.
Mm.
I wouldn't rank Lander. I wouldn't rank Stringer. I wouldn't rank that lawyer Waldman. Is that his name?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Um, you know, so you have to, I think,
Why wouldn't you
sometimes
rank them, Bertha?
I would not rank them at all,
Why?
because number one, Stringer had his chance and he screwed us. When he thought he was going to run for mayor, he ran around, you know, had minorities on his staff and this and that and the other. And then as soon as he knew he couldn't run for mayor, he immediately endorsed de Blasio. And then he fired all the people that he had hired that were supposed to be diverse.
Mm.
Okay. I uh, Waldman, another guy that's trying to buy the election. No, I'm sorry, we're done with billionaires who, want to run the city like it's a business. This is a city government. It is not your corporation.
And what are your
Brad
concerns with that?
Lander,
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Lander, I think is a phony. Known him since he was at the Fifth Avenue Committee out here in Brooklyn, and you can't believe a word that he says out of his mouth. So, those guys don't get a ranking at all.
Mm.
So you've got your underdogs. You've got Zoran. You've got Zelnor, Myri,
Mm-hmm.
and I wouldn't rank Jessica Ramos because I've always thought, Albany controls everything that we do here. Why would you want to leave the caucus up in Albany to come down to be the mayor? Are you just lazy? Is it that you don't want to travel? Or is governing in Albany a little too hard? I feel the same way, you know. Myri is in the state Senate. There could be a lot that could be done in the state Senate. So I'm not, and even with Mondani, it's just I have this like really, really bad feeling about people that come down from Albany that rules New York City and comes down to, either be a borough president or a New York City mayor. We've seen that movie, and I don't think we want to repeat it.
Bertha, what are your thoughts on Reverend Sharpton convening something over the weekend to discuss what came out of the Department of Justice? Thoughts on that?
I think that would be a great idea because, people need to be able to express, their emotions
Mm.
about this. Folks, a lot of folks in this town didn't want to believe it, and thought, oh no, that's not really going to happen. Once again, what was happening in front of their eyes. So I think it's a great idea. He should do it. There should, all of these faith leaders ought to do convenings of their congregation or of their community to say, let's talk about this.
Mm. Bertha,
Because
what?
there's this assumption in Adams' camp, and now the speculation in Cuomo's camp that people are just, oh, the community of color is just going to be with me. Both of them are delusional.
Mm. Bertha, what are your thoughts on the state of progressive politics? Again, as someone who's spent and dedicated their lives to the progressive movement and empowering communities of color, what are your thoughts? As someone again who's founded ACORN, Communities for Change, the WFP, what are your thoughts on the latest state of play?
People should not call themselves progressive when they're not.
Mm.
Okay? It's like, our city council calling themselves progressive. You ain't progressive worth a damn. You got the Black Puerto Rican Latino caucus. They could stop anything in Albany or put forth anything. They have the numbers, but they do nothing. So people are, anyone that wants to call themselves progressive, I'm very suspicious of, because I go by what you do,
Mm.
not what you say you are. And I just think true progressives are sorely lacking right now on
Bertha, if you
the macro and the micro level.
Bertha, if you had to draft someone to run, who would that person be who meets the sort of criteria of someone who could move the city forward, um, for the betterment of all groups and all New York City residents? If you were to say, I this person should be or should run.
Well, I wish, and I know this sounds crazy, but I don't care because I'm crazy.
No, don't say that.
You need someone like Charles Barron again,
Mm,
who the data shows he produced more for his community, told the developers, if you want to build, this is how you're going to build, knew how the budget worked. You know, people criticized him and Inez for flipping back and forth, but they got to understand the machinery. So, someone like that, I would have loved for Jamani to step up and say, I'm not waiting for if, you know, uh, you know, Adams like gets removed and then I'll run. He needs to step up right the hell right now because he could do it.
mm, mm. What do you think of Governor Hochul and her poll numbers and what that means? It's obviously they people think there's a vulnerability there. What are your thoughts on that?
There definitely is. I call her Chatty Cathy,
Mm,
like the doll
mm,
from from the 60s. You know, uh, Kathy, like very narrowly by the skin of her teeth, got reelected. Oh no, got elected on her own. I thought at the time that she was going to get it from Cuomo because the atmosphere was so bad. And that white woman could have, like, run buck naked through Times Square and still would have won that first time. But she has proven the reason why she was ineffective as a lieutenant governor and why she couldn't win re-election when she was in Congress. And it's just been one dismal decision after the other. I'm not impressed with the people that she has around her. I don't know if she's just getting bad advice or she's listening to consultants or what she is thinking, but like, she has a listening tour now, like going around thanking folks for supporting some legislation, different legislation that she signed from last year. But the problem with Kathy is she always tries to slip in something that people are not for. You know, you go to talk to people, you want to, thank them. And instead of listening to them, she always tries to, slip in something that's her agenda that people are not feeling. So I think she's in trouble.
mm,
I think she ran a very bad campaign the last time out. It was horrifying.
mm,
And once again, you got to blend old school with new school.
mm,
There is no getting around, going deep into the constituency that you want to vote for you. There's no, getting around old fashioned. voter registration and then engaging those people. There's no getting around the old fashioned community meetings, the door knocking. They're actually pulling people. They spend too much money on consultants and mail and ads, and not enough money putting human beings in the field.
Bertha, what are your thoughts on what's the Democratic Party or the left's only hope in combating Trump? Is it Minority Leader Jeffries? Is it Chuck Schumer? What in terms of the legislative process in DC? What is our hope?
You need people in the streets because Chuck Schumer or Hakeem Jeffries, which, you know, unlike both of them, they need some wind under their wings. They need, ground to stand on. They need a ground swell. We've got to put people back in the streets. 2026 is coming. It's right around the corner.
Mm,
That means midterms. Okay? So you got to start organizing now. You got to put people on the ground now. And they need to get Chuck Schumer and Hakeem and the rest of the House and the Senate Democrats need to go to their donors and say, listen, you could give me $1, but you also need to put $1 into my districts on the ground.
mm,
Social media is fine. TV ads are fine. Mail is fine. But you got to put that together
mm,
with real bodies on the ground,
mm.
going deep, learning cultural competency, actually talking to people and listening to us.
Wow. Bertha, thoughts on, and I want to wrap this up because I don't want to take too much of your time. What are your thoughts on the anybody but Eric Adams or anybody but Andrew Cuomo? Let's gather and, the whole I rank you one, I rank you two, that the Working Families Party's pushing for. What are your thoughts on the sort of, I guess, based on what you're
Well,
saying,
there
lesser of all evils?
well the first thing is there is validity to an anybody but campaign. Okay? If you put anybody but Adams, you could run a whole campaign just anybody but Adams. You could run a whole campaign. You get closer to what you want when you actually verbalize, visualize, and call out what you don't want. It's like being in an abusive relationship. You got to stop getting beat and get out of that situation and say, this is what I do not want. So when people are interviewed, when people are ranked, they are clear on what you will not accept and what you do not want.
Mm,
And that gets others closer to giving you what you want. Unless you can verbalize and be clear about this is not what I want, this is not what I'm going to put up with. You had your chance, that's it. I'm not doing that. Anybody but them. And somebody just needs to run the anybody but campaign because that gives people clarity. And
mm,
those kinds of campaigns have been done before.
mm.
So I'm for the anybody but.
Bertha, last question. and I know you recently wrote an op-ed delineating the reasons why you would not support an Andrew Cuomo mayoralty. But I just read an op-ed in the Daily News where a former a person that worked in the U.S. Attorney's office called for Manhattan DA Alvin Bragg to take on the cause or the case. Thoughts on something like that and a calling for that?
Well, listen, quite frankly, Alvin Bragg and Letitia James have really been our champions. They operate in the judicial realm, but my God, those two have been our bright and shining stars. They really have.
Mm,
Because what they've done is to use the arena that they operate in and without fear or favor. And it really, you know, is very good. Now, people say, oh, they too liberal, they too this, they too that. You know, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. And right now, the enemy of my enemy, Trump, and the Trump MAGA base, you know, Alvin and Tish are enemies of them. So they are my friends, and I support both of them wholeheartedly. And I want them, to keep operating in their judicial sphere, because it seems as though right now the only ones that are trying to have, you know, some iota of saving us and beating back the MAGA nation are the courts and the justices and the judicial system.
mm. Bertha, last parting words. What do you anything you want to say or add that I didn't ask you?
Well, no, it's like the op-ed that I wrote about Andrew was I was just trying to remind people about, Andrew's relationship over his many years with the Black community, because we're in this, cyber world of social media and fast, 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 which is the strategy that the Trump administration has taken on. And there is a short attention span, and people don't remember. So I was trying to remind people, and not to go for the okey doke or to be bamboozled, because there his PR machine has this narrative that, oh, Black people love him. And you know you show up at a Black church with your heathen self and think that somehow you're gonna, be washed in a saving blood, because Black folks, whether they're Muslim or Christian, are very civilized, and they're very forgiving, and we can forgive him, but we will never forget. And Andrew has to come clean and say, yes, this is what I did, I'm sorry, tell me how to be better, because he is a good manager. But he has to come to the community and say, tell me how I can be better.
Mm, got it. Bertha, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me. And we'll see how things unfold. And hopefully, this won't be the last time we talk.
Well, good. Well, thank you so much for having me on and letting me, rant and rave and show I have a dual personality. And, I have Bertha May, who's nice and sweet. And then there's Hagatha
Yeah, but Bertha,
that
you
you heard
sacrifice
tonight.
so much. You sacrifice so much for the well being of so many. So I think
Well,
everyone should recognize that.
I really, I made a decision years ago, that first of all, as a Black woman, if I love myself, I love my people.
Mm,
And, as long as I'm on this earth, I made a decision. Some people choose between comfort and freedom. I choose freedom.
thank you so much, Bertha. All the best, all right? And have a wonderful
Okay.
evening. Thank you so much, Bertha.
And
Talk soon.
you too, Roberta.
All right, bye
Bye
bye.
bye.